preparing to live stream the meeting.
By the way, I've got my main Mac laptop and I have my MacBook Air M1 right here. You know, whenever you're doing these kind of presentations, you need to think about hardware redundancy because you never know when something's just going to stop working at the most inconvenient time. So
that's the big benefit, Phil, of having co-hosts, because what Zoom does, if there's anybody who's a co-host, not an, you know, the owner of the meeting, and the owner gets bounced off for some reason,
right.
The prime hosting goes to the co-host. So it's a useful feature that way too.
I like to explain to people who come to the public library, I say, you know, you're going to need 2 computers because you need 2 lungs and you need 2 kidneys. You have 1 lung and 1 kidney and it stops working. It becomes uncomfortable. When there's 1 lung and it stops working, it's uncomfortable. So when you need 2 computers so that if one stops working, it doesn't become uncomfortable. You know, you need to have some redundancy because the stress level can get just really high.
Well, if you want to ask Roy how many Macs or of various stripes he has, it'll take him a while to explain that.
Yeah. One kid comes to me at the public library job. He goes, "How many computers do you own?" So I said, 83. I said, "What's the next question?" He didn't ask me how many working computers I own.
Right.
And I was like, I don't have 83 working computers. I got a half.
Well, that's actually a learning opportunity of teaching how to ask a more precise question, right?
Yeah.
A lifetime of them I have.
The kid was a little surprised at the answer. You know, he was thinking maybe 8, 7. You know, like.
I saw something the other day that showed the creator of Mist and his first calculator he won when he was 11 years old. And it was an HP calculator that was programmable. And he said that was his first computer.
I remember that. That was probably 19. Wozniak used to work for HP. Wozniak used to design calculators. That was probably 1978 or 79 or 80.
I think it was even earlier than that because I had one also. But yeah.
I remember I had a Texas Instrument. I love my Texas Instrument calculator.
Mm-hmm.
TI-30. Roy, where are you based? What part of the DC area?
Fairfax, Virginia.
Got it. I'm over here in Silver Spring near White Oak Public Library.
Oh.
And then I work in Tacoma Park at the public library.
Oh.
And
sorry, I was trying to turn the volume off on the YouTube live stream and it was playing back into us. So I thought I blocked audio. Huh. Block audio and video. Block audio. If I blocked audio, no, I think it's the autoplay. That's what it is. Ah.
Roy, I can't wait until these M3 Macs come out.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to be a real nice jump in speed.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, the M2s are great. The M1s are fabulous. The M3 gets my pulse going because even like an M3 MacBook Air, I never thought a MacBook Air would be so powerful. You know, they were always the less powerful computer until the chip came out.
Yeah.
And,
well, they still can't convince the gaming programmers to switch over to them yet, but it's amazing.
yeah.
They lost that. They lost that path. I keep seeing all these games that sound really interesting, but they're only only available on a PC. So, but I guess now Apple has created the tools to help them convert them over. So,
Roy, did you ever own an Apple II computer?
no, I started off with a Mac Plus.
You started with Mac Plus, so that was 1988 or so.
Yeah.
I owned an Apple II. I used to love it. I even had a software company that I used to design Apple II software. And
Oh.
and then I got into the Mac.
Yeah, I went the Commodore path. I started off with the Commodore PET, went to the 64, Amiga.
Okay.
I was in that whole world.
Oh, interesting. Right. Commodore PET, boy, we must be about the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a 8K PET, and I know when they were first releasing them, they were debating whether to release it with 4K, and marketing talked them into putting an 8K out there. Nobody bought the 4Ks.
And they used to have this amazing software that could translate Celsius into Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit into Celsius. Like it was 40K, 40 character text screen, there was no graphics. There was no graphics like Commodore PET that I don't remember,
Jonathan, do you want me to admit everybody? Open the door?
Um,
Time.
before we do that, could
Okay.
you check the YouTube to see if you can see and hear the live stream?
Oh, okay.
In fact, maybe I'll let people in while you're doing that.
I can also check on my secondary computer.
There's Aaron and David, Diane.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, Ann Zabaldo. Woohoo!
Oh,
And good morning, Van.
Hello, Jonathan.
Van, would it be okay if I added you as a co-host just for
Sure.
miscellany? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the door.
All righty. Welcome, everyone, to our July general meeting. And Phil Shapiro is in the house. Hey, Phil. Thanks so much for coming today. And thanks, it's been wonderful to have you back in the pie to spread your message of community and inclusion, and wonderful to continue that today. Before we launch Phil, while we're waiting for people to join the meeting, there's Sam. I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. The first is that we are now in July. Our August meeting is going to be a great one. Joe Kissel, Take Control Books, is going to come back to the pie. It's been about 3 years since he last visited. And really timely for us is he'll be talking about digital legacy. So this will be a wonderful program. And that's the August general meeting. We hope that Aaron will be available for his traditional September meeting, and I won't embarrass him by engaging him about that at the meeting today. In October or in November, we're trying to well, why don't I not even, Roy, promise the name before I've locked him down? It's a little.
Right.
well, you can, and we could all pressure him.
Well, you don't want to do that.
Well, why don't I'll take the plunge. Some of you who've been with the pie for a long time probably remember when Andy Ihnatko came to our pie meetings in the late 80s and early 90s. He's now in Boston, but really seems like he's hot to come back remotely, to us. So we're trying to arrange a date. And telling you folks already way too much, he thought we had arranged this July today, but I had tried to confirm that, never successfully. But he's great. He says, well, let's do another time. Anyway, so persistence pays off with people as prominent as he is, when he's, very fond of our group and wants to come back. Oh, one last thing, that we are still trying to go back to the Jim McLean XR lab at George Mason, as we've done now a couple of times. The pie members really seem to have enjoyed those meetings. They don't work out as well on the virtual side because it's a lab thing, but we're still going to try to do that either in November or early next year. So that's the quick story about upcoming meetings. The other announcement I wanted to make is that we finally have been successful. Richard Orland is here, so he was the guinea pig for us for figuring out how pie members could actually buy their own handsome pie mugs that we've been giving out to presenters. Phil, later in the meeting, I'll offer this to you. But anyway, this is through Zazzle. And pie members who already have a Zazzle account, it's relatively easy to do, but you shouldn't need an account to buy a pie mug. So there's a way you can call to do that. And I'm working up the kind of instructions of how to do this. Richard learned that the shipping is almost the same cost as the mug. Anyway, I'll be sending around on the apple pie list when I work it up, the instructions of how to do this. They're really nice mugs, so it'll be good for that to be more available to people. Is Diana in the house? Yes, she is.
Yes.
Our new pie president, Diana King, is in the house. Diana, do you have any announcements or remarks you'd like to make?
Only that I'm so grateful to you, Jonathan, as the program manager, for lining up all these wonderful guests and events. I think you do such a wonderful job, and I'm having had to do that myself when I was president. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, that's so nice of you to say, Diana. I think, as I told Roy on many occasions, I'm really happy that I'm out of some of the background pie stuff. But one of the activities I really enjoy is, cultivating speakers and interesting people to come to the pie. So that's something I'd like to continue to do if the board is willing. So thanks, Diana.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're the perfect man for the job.
So we also have our past president, Roy Wagner, here at the meeting. Roy, do you have any comments or things you'd like to make?
No, other than we have a few gaps in the board. We certainly like some members that are interested in, helping us on the board with more membership. We'd like to fill out the board. We don't have to have as many people or as few as we do. We have openings. So if you're interested in contributing, doesn't meet very often, 4 times a year or so, depending on when the president wants to hold the meeting. So that's it.
Thanks, Roy. Diane, Marcus, it looks like you have your hand up.
Would you spell Zazzle? And I've never heard of Zazzle. And 5 paragraphs ago, you mentioned Andy Inoco in the late 80s. I wasn't a member then. How do you spell Inoco? And was he someone who he must have lived in the area to come to the meetings? So thank you. If you answer my questions.
Andy Ihnatko lives in Boston now, and he appears on Boston Public Radio. And I'm trying to remember his what's Andy's group that he does the regular podcast with?
Mac, well, he's on Mac Break Weekly that I watch.
Mac Break Weekly. That's it. Yeah.
He used to have a regular column in one of the Mac magazines that I used to read regularly. I don't know whether it was Mac World or.
He's hilariously funny. That guy's hilariously funny.
Right.
How do you spell his last name?
Oh, it's Inkahtto, I think.
No, it's got an H in there.
Yeah, it's got not go. Yeah.
Oh, Aaron nicely put a
Thank you.
Wikipedia
We both-
link in the chat.
We both hit at the same time.
Great minds think alike.
Zazzle is in the chat, Diane.
Okay. Thank you.
I've heard Andy say that his name is a hard one to remember. And I guess people, the somewhat mnemonic that he uses or, helps people is, I have no Ihnatko. So it's IH. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
IHNATKO. So I have no Ihnatko. And that's the way to remember get the H in the right place.
Without the H, it would be much easier.
He's a regular.
Well, you can pass that along to his great
Yeah.
parents.
Do we want to do a brief Q&A before we turn things over to Phil? Does anyone have any Mac questions or Pi questions or other such questions?
As a follow-up to something that I asked about, I guess in one of the Clubhouse things, I should say that I finally got my HP printer and my iMac and the HP software to communicate with each other and got a multiple page copy made. A week or so ago, they were not talking to each other, and therefore I could not get the software to present the little button where you click to add a page, so that you can do more than one page of a document. So I did figure that out. Unfortunately, the older EasyScan software was not helpful. I had to use an online version of it, but at least I got away from the automatic ink updates in the process, which I don't want. There was a whole series of articles in the Post about the evils of printers and the frustrations of printers.
Kira wrote that. It was very good, very good piece.
Anybody else
I liked it.
enjoy those?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was true. It's very true.
very. And they definitely suggested avoiding the automatic updating of where the company tracks your ink usage and keeps offering you more and more cartridges for your printer because
Yeah.
it's cheaper to get it somewhere else.
Well, it's because that's how they make their money. And
Of course.
that seems to be more on the inkjet printer side and a little
Yes.
less on the laser printer side.
Sell you a cheap printer, but keep you locked in forever for ink.
Right. Yeah, the longer it goes, the more unseemly it seems to be. Anne Zabaldo has her hand up. Anne?
Hand down.
Where are you, Ann?
Yeah, I'm just talking away to myself, I guess. So I was begging your forgiveness that I'm sort of out to lunch on a lot of technological stuff, but I was looking here in the chat, and did something change here? Because it looks like a bunch of people joined as guests, and they certainly been around a long time, and I just am not understanding that. And also there's something called a meeting team chat or something like that. I just don't remember seeing that in the past. Was I completely I don't know, drugged up or something?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. That's good. Okay.
Oh, one thing, Anne, that the Fathom Note Taker is an integrated Zoom app that I'm using. So that's something that that I've twigged.
Yeah, but all these other people, like let's see who's in here.
That's related to an update. I think Mike
Yeah.
and Mary might be able to
It
explain it.
happened after some updates a week or so ago.
But why would they be? Do we have to rejoin or something?
No.
No.
Okay. I just curious because it just looks so different.
I think Zoom now distinguishes where people use registration at a meeting to ones who registered or have come as guests, I think. Yeah, if Mike Emery was here, I'm sure he could crisply explain it.
And Zabaldo privately sent me a chat, and underneath her text in gray, it says, messages addressed to meeting group chat will also appear in the dedicated group chat in team chat. And underneath that in gray, it lists 3 people as they tuned in. And I don't think anyone else can see this, but it says Diana Kay joined as a guest, Jim Diamond joined as a guest, Ron Shansby joined as a guest. I think that's what you're seeing, Anne.
Yes, that is. And you just rattled off about 3 or 4 things there that that whatever that was, I've forgotten them already, but that's the kind of stuff that I just, at any rate, makes me feel that I really am out to lunch. So I don't know what those 3 things were that you rattled off there, but I don't understand. It seems to me that what you were saying is that I posted you a private message.
Correct?
And that at some point, people are going to be able to see it.
No.
Because it says it'll be posted in the.
No, whatever, it's not important, that little message that showed up under your private post, but in that short time frame, for some reason, it logged in 3 of our members and said they joined as a guest. And I don't think anyone except you, Anne, and me, Diane, can see that.
Diane and let me try to demystify. And I think this has to do with a setting in Zoom that I must have not disabled, but now I will, to allow people to chat after a meeting ends.
Yes, but that doesn't seem to be what Diane read off. I did see that. Yes, and that is a possibility. I mean, this seems to be a little bit of an inane conversation, so maybe we can just take it offline.
Well, it's not important.
both of you, Aaron wrote, included a link about new features in the Zoom app. So
Okay.
probably there's information there. So yeah, thanks for the question. We always try to demystify, not always successfully.
Yes, Diane, and I think anything that you say is not useless. So there.
Thank you. I could tell you all something very interesting about my 2011 iMac running whatever. Some of you remember that I was upset in January because my 15,000 photos wouldn't load anymore. And Aaron said, it's highly unusual that that would be a problem, but time to get a new iMac. And in the photo sig, I've been told the same thing. So I didn't yet get myself to purchase a new desktop iMac because I prefer a big screen rather than using the MacBook Pro. 10 days ago, and frustrating, I could not connect to United Airlines website. And it finally dawned on me, incompatibility, they've updated their website. And then yesterday I had the same problem with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I could not, on my ancient iMac, I could not get on their website. But on my MacBook Pro, I could. So yes, it is time to get a new iMac. But I figured out what was wrong, which I was happy that I was able to understand the problem.
Yeah, the old iMac is going to have an old web browser, and then those websites do not like old web browsers.
Yeah, but you know, a couple weeks ago, Phil, I could connect to those sites.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
No, I had never yet had a problem with my beloved 2011 21.5-inch iMac. I had never had a problem connecting to a website until a few days ago.
oh,
And my brain says, oh, they installed newer software, newer updates.
Probably.
Diane, why don't we go to Aaron first and then Ron Shansby?
Thanks, Jonathan. I just wanted to mention to Diane that you don't necessarily have to buy a new computer. You do have the option of just buying a new monitor and attaching it to your MacBook Pro. So that's one way to save about $1,000.
Wait a minute. I got it. Oh, don't get a new, I don't have to get an M1 chip 24-inch. I can buy a monitor and attach it to my MacBook Pro. I hadn't thought of that.
yeah.
Well, as a shareholder, I would love you to buy an entire new computer, but as your friend, I'm suggesting you might want to save $1,000 and just get a big monitor instead and connect that directly to your MacBook Pro. And that way you don't have to, deal with syncing things between your two computers. It might save you on some desk space, and there might be other benefits as well. So something to think about. But I do think that, you're going to continue to see more and more problems with a computer of that age. So I think you're aware of that, and just to kind of set expectations.
It could shut down completely. But my MacBook Pro was purchased 5 years ago in June.
Well, it probably is still running the current operating system. So
Yes,
so you're in good shape there.
yeah. Well, thank you, Aaron, as always.
Diane, let's move on to Ron Shansby. Ron,
Good morning.
good morning.
Several
Go ahead, Ron.
Lost Brown's audio.
issues. I do not have any Apple monitor giveaways. I have a good couple of new monitor at a place like Micro Center for about $125. And you can also get used ones. Number one. Number two,
Would you
I
say
have,
that again, Ron? Because when you started talking, we couldn't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Okay, I was talking about monitors, if you recall. Anyway, I have a Mac Pro desktop from 2012, and it has High Sierra in it. I've also patched into Catalina, but not any higher. I've found that using Safari has been inadequate for some websites, and with some of the changes being made in the past few days. So I have downloaded other browsers. So I migrate and open up my document in Firefox. Firefox itself is going to stop supporting older Macs with operating systems prior to and including Catalina. So you're going to have to jump around to a number of these browsers to find one that works for a particular website. I
Thank
find it a little
you.
frustrating, but it's usually maybe once a day I'll have to do that.
Yeah. Ron, I don't need any other browsers. I love Safari. I don't use any other browsers.
Well, when you won't be able to load a document in Safari, my advice is to try another browser.
No, I go to my MacBook Pro
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine.
or my iPhone, second generation SE.
That's fine.
But thank you. I thought you were going to tell me you're going to give me a monitor.
No way.
Thanks, Ron.
But Ron, you were saying go where to look at monitors?
Micro Center advertises them.
Okay.
Let's go now to Diana. Go ahead, Diana.
I just was going to ask Diane, what is the most recent version of Safari that you've been able to put on your old iMac? Because I would think that that is what really those websites depend on, is how recent the Safari is that you're running.
I'm going to tell you about Safari version 13.1.2. Yeah, it only updates. It has still been updating for security. So whatever it means to some of you, 13.1.2.
I think the newest one is a higher number, isn't it? I haven't tracked
Oh.
it.
It's 16, I think.
Yeah, 16.5.2.
So you might, I mean, rather than investing in equipment, maybe your computer can handle a newer version of Safari. I don't know. It may not, but
No, Aaron could explain it. It can't. The hardware, I think it's not compatible.
yeah, that
And
it may be a little more than what you've got, but yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Too much.
Diane's correct that the version of Safari is now it's tied to the version of the operating system that the Mac can handle. So
Right.
it's not really like Safari is a separate app like Firefox or Chrome. Safari is part of the operating system. You can't really download it separately. So it all keys off of the newest version of the OS that the hardware can handle. So Diane's exactly right.
Right.
Now, there is one exception, and some people can download what's called the Safari Technology Preview, which is a separate download. So if you can't use the version of Safari that is built into your operating system and you can't update any further, you might try to download what's called the Safari Technology Preview. I don't know if that gives you any additional access to a newer version of Safari. I haven't checked that, but that's the only way to download Safari separate from the operating system. But Diane, obviously the hardware is bulletproof. It's like cockroaches, you just can't kill it. So it'll last forever. And I know it's difficult to deaccession perfectly good hardware, but just keep in mind, I know you know this, and I know everyone's sick of me preaching about this, but once your operating system isn't receiving security updates, it's susceptible to exploits, that are on the internet, and you're taking a risk. So everyone has to evaluate the risk for themselves. Some people find it acceptable. Some people only like to use software that is currently being patched. So everyone has to make their own decisions, but you're using software that's probably at least 3 years out of date. So just something to think about.
If we could move on for a minute, Sam Knutson, would you want to talk a little more about the thing that Ann Zabaldo was interested in, the external monitor that you're using?
Sure. And I mean, just about any monitor, any external monitor would do. And I think that the main point is that using two monitors works very well. A lot of people find it to be a very pleasant setup to work in front of. And if you have a MacBook, you can either put it on a stand that elevates the display and use it as a second monitor with an external monitor, or you can close it. Some people like to run it in clamshell mode and just use the external monitor. But I have found, and I think a lot of people do, that it's a huge productivity improvement to have two monitors. And if you use a little laptop stand that takes your MacBook and brings it up 4 to 6 inches, then the monitor on your MacBook is at the same level as the external monitor. And they're both about the same distance, so they're comfortable to view. And you can use an external full-size keyboard and mouse. And it really is like an iMac and an external monitor, with the benefit that if you need to leave, you can shut it down, unplug everything, and go. So yeah, it's just having two monitors is once you go to two, you really can't go back to just one.
And if I can actually add to that, another thing you can do is stand up your iPad next to it and treat that as an extra monitor. Aaron, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I agree completely with everything that Sam said. And Jonathan, your point is spot on about the feature called Sidecar, which lets you use an iPad either connected with a USB cable or connected wirelessly as a second display. And also just note that Sidecar doesn't count as one of your additional displays on your Mac, because you can only have a certain number of displays depending on which model you have. But just back to Sam's comment, which I 100% agree with, there are some people that are not comfortable with moving their mouse back and forth between two displays. Like Sam, I wish I was able to do that, but I just have problems with it. And so for me, I think having just a single display, but a much bigger one to get that additional real estate makes more sense for me. But for those that are able to kind of navigate between multiple displays, whether it's 2 or 3, then Sam's spot on that is a great way to extend your screen real estate. And he's right. Once you have that experience, it's hard to give up the additional space for putting windows and things. Thanks.
I have one more thing to say. So
Go ahead, Diane.
if I purchased this iMac in 2010, as some of you have said, you've gotten 5 extra years. It doesn't owe you anything. So in one part of my brain is saying, go ahead and get a iMac with the M1 chip. It'll last another 10 years. So maybe I'll resolve this, whether to get a monitor or get a new iMac with the M1 chip.
Thanks, Diane. One last thing about this. Ann Zabalda posted in the chat, how do I get my calendar on the laptop and Pages on the Thunderbolt display? You know, it's really easy when you have a second monitor attached to just drag things to where you want them. For example, I always keep email and Zoom meeting on my MacBook Pro screen, and that way I can blow up the browser with the many tabs that I have on the separate monitor, and that seems to work well for me. But it's really whatever your preference is. Oh, and the one thing I'd add to that is I learned from my daughter when she was in app startup mode that programmers really like to have a not landscape monitor, but a stand-up monitor for being able to more easily scroll lines of code. Oh, and as far as the many open tabs, Safari handles that pretty elegantly. In either Chrome or Firefox, I recommend an extension called OneTab. And whenever I'm using those browsers, OneTab is fabulous because as soon as you're in a place where you have way too many, and Chrome was really guilty of this, of really degrading your processing ability if you had many tabs open. And hitting the one tab key basically then puts them all in a list on the left where all of those websites are available to you. Anyway, that's the tab story. Van, maybe this is a good time to get back to you about your wife's iPad that kept not being able to upgrade or kept complaining about Wi-Fi. What was that?
Okay, I'll try to explain this very quickly. It's still not resolved. This is probably in the top most bizarre things I've ever run into. It's an 11-inch iPad Pro that's 4 years old. And all of a sudden, well, okay. And then at one point it would not upgrade. It would not update to accept the rapid security, most recent rapid security update. And that wasn't even offered. It knew that she needed it, but the download wasn't there. It was grayed out. The other thing we noticed that it wasn't doing an iCloud backup for the past week or so at that time. And the iCloud backup was failing with a message I had not seen until then, which was something that failed because of poor network conditions. Never seen that. Did some research. Okay, the bottom line is it's still not resolved. I've sort of given up, actually. She doesn't want me messing around with her iPad anymore, is the bottom line. She has an iPad. It works. It works on our network. It does all the Wi-Fi and internet connectivity that she needs to do. The speed is what you would expect. What the iPad cannot do is it cannot go accept a security update, offer a security update for download, although we've sort of gotten around that. And it cannot do an iCloud backup. And here's the weird part. It cannot do either of those two things when we're in the house. When she takes it, when she volunteers at the library and takes to the library, both of those things work. We've tested it in a restaurant, a library. If it leaves the house, the machine, the device works exactly as you would expect. So I've called Apple. Here was what was weird. And I really hated myself. Went to the Apple store because I couldn't get this to work. By the time I parked the car and came into the Apple store, my wife and the technician had already updated the software and realized that everything was working fine in the Apple store. It's bizarre. I've restarted the router. I've unplugged the router. I've blown away everything to factory settings and reinstalled. I didn't get a new router. Oh, also at home, I tried it by taking it off Wi-Fi and trying to have it do anything on cellular, and it wouldn't work. I've never run into anything like this. I have not gotten a new router because I'm not sure that that's necessarily the issue. I blew the item off the router, so it had to reestablish itself. It's like there's this electromagnetic field in our house that is designed to thwart that one particular device from just doing those two Apple related things, the software update and the iCloud backup.
Van, did you see, Aaron in the chat says, does disabling iCloud private relay make a difference while at home?
It did not. The 5 times I tried it, it did not, but that's a good idea.
Let me ask another question. Did you try putting up a Wi-Fi hotspot with your phone and connecting the iPad to that rather than the home network?
Yes, I did, and it did not work. So it was
because that seems to be the closest thing to it working somewhere else on a different system.
It did not. It failed. It failed trying to use her iPad and mine with my phone as a hotspot. I'm not saying I've tried everything. I welcome ideas, but everything I've tried a bunch of times.
Well, let's go to
strange.
Ron Shansby and then Jim Landsberg. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, just one question. You don't use a VPN, do you?
I do not.
Okay.
Never have.
Okay.
That was one of the questions when I was on with Apple support, and that was one of the questions that they asked.
Another thing, I had a similar experience, but it came up with a notice that I didn't have enough space to install that particular update. The update itself probably was very small, but it required about 4.5 gigabytes of space. So I had to deactivate several of the apps on our iPad.
Yeah,
But-
she has something. She has like almost 200 gigabytes available.
Wow. Okay.
Thank
You're
you, though.
paying for it. I'm not. Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ron. Jim Landsberg.
Unmute.
Good morning, Jim. You have to unmute.
How's that?
Good.
I thought I'd done it well. Simple question. Don, when I move my cursor to the bottom of the screen on my MacBook Pro, that line of apps pops up. And I don't know the name of it, of what it is, and I want to move the whole thing to the right side. I can explain why, but it's unnecessary. What's the name of that list of apps? And how do I move it? I know you can move it to the side, and how do you move it to the side?
Ron, can you help Jim?
I believe it's a dock in system preferences. And when you go to that particular setting, they indicate where you can do it and whether it's active all the time or whether it's activated by the presence of the cursor in that area.
Yeah, but there are several different kinds of, there's a menu. The menu is at the top, isn't it? What's the one at the bottom called?
It's called the
It's the
dock.
dock.
Yeah, it's called the dock.
Doc,
You
Dock.
can
Yes, you
click
can.
on it to get the settings.
and I can change it in settings.
Yeah, yep, yep, yep.
Okay,
Jim, did you see Aaron's link to the how to change the dock settings in the chat?
no, I didn't.
Yeah, have a look at that.
We'll take a look. The reason I want to do this is that, well, I can print most things fine. And stuff like Amazon and email, if I go to print a page, a screen, it all comes up, except that down in the right-hand corner is where you click to say print. And when I go down to that corner on those applications, the dock covers it up, and I can't hit the print thing, and I can't print the close thing either. So I have to shut my MacBook down in order to get rid of it. So I think I'm going to try putting it the dock on the right side and see if it opens up my printer so that I can print from email and stuff like that. So I'll give it a try. If it doesn't work, I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do, Jim.
Thank you.
Did we have anything more about Van's situation? Van, Aaron put in the chat, what about changing DNS settings for the iPad? I have no idea how to do that.
I actually have not. I have reset the network settings. I've taken it to factory restore a couple of times. I have not specifically changed DNS that I recall. You know how it is when you work on something for 2 weeks and you can't remember everything you did. Well, that's
Sure.
where I am. I need to make a note of that. I could go in and look and see what DNS settings I'm using. Thank you.
Do you know, folks, this has been a very lively session. Maybe it's time to finally turn the meeting over to Phil. Phil Shapiro is an amazing community member. He was a PI member years ago, and reminds me that he and I became acquainted in the Silver Spring Time Bank. And through our relationship, Phil came back to the PI. And many of you probably remember before the pandemic, at least 2 different sessions that Phil came to Cedar Lane on a afternoon learners Thursday to present to us. Really interesting and useful stuff. Today's promises to be a very timely thing. And so, Phil, let me make you a co-host. And I will spotlight you, Phil, while you're talking, so we won't get any distractions. Phil Shapiro, welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for inviting me back. I'm going to be talking today and showing about digital storytelling. So I work at a public library. It's my main job. I'm very interested in storytelling. It's what makes us human beings. You know, it's the oldest art form is storytelling. So we should all strive to become storytellers because you become more of yourself when you're storytelling. And all of us have very interesting stories to tell. So we ought to be exploring the stories that we're called upon to share with the world so that the world can learn from us and be inspired and be reflective. So I've created a website for this presentation with a lot of the same things that I'm explaining. And I put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat again. I put it early in the chat. It's called siteslikeGoogle.com View Digital Storytelling Basics. So you can follow along there. I use Google Sites. It's a free service for building websites. If you have a Gmail, you can make up to 10 websites for free. I have a couple of Gmails, so I can make a bunch of websites. And let me share my screen here. So I think my screen is now shared.
Yes, it is.
Good. So the main thing I'm going to be explaining today is this. Well, I'm going to be showing you about LibreOffice. LibreOffice, the reason I love it is it reminds me of the old software called ClarisWorks Draw from the 1990s. So LibreOffice is free. It works on Mac, Windows, and Linux. And I use it for simple graphics work. By the way, I need to shout out to a couple of very wonderful people who joined us. Bill Wydrow, I remember you so well from the old days. You taught me so much stuff in the EdSig. Craig Harai, president of VMUG. Craig, it's great to see you here. And Aaron Davis, your answers on the email list are so useful. And I work at a public library, so I notice when somebody who's got this real zeal to explain, I give you a lot of points for all the great answers that you give out, both on the email list and here at the meetings. And Gabe Goldberg, wow, good to see you, Gabe. We go way back. So, okay, so I wanted to show you this website called Tunes to Tube. You might not have heard of this. This website does no advertising. And this website lets you log in to a Google account and then choose a graphics and choose an MP3 audio, and it will make you a YouTube video. So you focus on your storytelling. You just focus on the making a graphics of any kind, and then doing some voice narration. And so I wanted to show you today how I'm using Tunes to Tube. And I thought I'd do something which is in response to what Jonathan once asked me. He said, Phil, what's your origin story? How did you first come to Washington Apple Pie? And it is an interesting little story. So I'm going to make that story here now, and you'll see how I do things. I have LibreOffice over here, and now is that showing up? Do you guys all see LibreOffice on your screen? Is that showing up? Are we still in Firefox? Sorry, the chat window's off.
It's visible.
It's visible. Got it. Okay, good. So here's LibreOffice, and I created a template with the LibreOffice Draw program. Here's a little template that you can use. You can download this. LibreOffice is also a free download. So over here, I have just a nice yellow rectangle, and I want to add 2 graphics and some text to make a YouTube video. So the graphics I'm going to add is I go up to insert an image, and I'm going to put in a recent headshot for me. So I'm searching for Phil Shapiro 2023, and I'm doing a Mac search right here. So this is a photo of me that I can just insert. Okay, there's me. I can make this a little bit bigger. I'm holding down the Shift key to keep the proportions maybe like, there we go. Okay, so that's me, and I want to put it down here so that leaves room for a title at the top. We're going to have a text title. Then I'm going to insert Washington Apple Pie. So I'm going to come over here, Washington Apple Pie. I have a little graphics. Here it is. So here we are. So we have 2 little graphics here for my storytelling. Now I'd like to insert some text, like a title. So I go up to insert a text box, and let's try this again. Insert a text box. It's giving me the hand cursor. I don't want the hand cursor. I would like it's an X cursor to stretch out the text box. So let me try again. Maybe I have to, do I have to select the graphics? I think I can also do F2, just press F2. And no, I'm not getting the text. Let me see. There we are. There was the text. Oops, it came and went.
Did it put it behind it, Phil?
Maybe, that's it. Just trying to figure out. Here we go. Here's my text box. Okay, so my origin story for joining Washington Apple Pie. And then I come down by Phil Shapiro. So I want to take this. This is my text box. I'd like a bigger font, so I go like so. And I'd like to have a bigger font. There's a little tip here. You can make a bigger font. In LibreOffice, you can make a bigger font just by going Command right bracket. So that's just a little tip there. And then I'd like to open that up. Yeah, this is looking good. I'd like to bring my background up. So you can see I'm kind of mixing in the graphics and the text. Now that text is too low. I'd like to center that text, right? And maybe make it a different color. So I want to come over here to a text menu. I'd like to center the text. There we are. And then I'd like to, my text menu over here, I'd like to make it maybe red. Here, it's looking kind of nice. There we go. So here is my digital storytelling. I have a text box and 2 graphics. And make sure that it's, yeah, I don't want to, now I'd like to take all of these 3 little objects. These are 3 objects in the graphics. And I'd like to make a single JPEG. To do that, I do select all, edit, select all, and file export. I'd like to export this as a JPEG. File export, and oops, I have the chat window up here. Kind of jumped on top of things. Here we are. Close the chat window. So over here, I'd like to click onto the selection. I only want to export the selection. I don't want to export the whole page, because then I'll get a white border, which I don't want. I just want the graphics of the yellow. And then let's make a JPEG. So I come over here. By the way, this entire presentation I'm making, this is all being recorded. So you'll be able to go back. If I'm going a little too fast, I hope you're not feeling that I'm going too fast in a way that you can't go back and look at this. So I go save, and I want to replace it. There we are. Here it comes. So now I've created that graphics. It's on my computer. Now I'd like to make an audio. And for the audio, I'm going to use a web service that you might not have heard of, but it's really good. And it's called Vocaroo. It's free. Vocaroo. It's a very simple web site service where it records your voice straight from your browser. And I have my MacBook Pro here, and I'm talking right into the webcam. I'm going to get some pretty good audio, I think, talking. My mouth is maybe 6 or 8 inches from the webcam. I could also be using a USB headset, like a Logitech, and that would give me higher quality audio. Or I love recording audio with these things. This is my Olympus digital audio recorder. And it works almost like a flash drive, where after I record things, I just plug this thing into my Mac, and this particular model records in a WAV format, which is uncompressed audio. It's CD quality audio. Anyway, over here in Vocaroo, now I'm going to do my little narration, which Jonathan said he's quite interested in. How did I first come to Washington Apple Pie? So here it is. Here's my origin story. So my story of coming to Washington Apple Pie is, the year is 1987. I finished law school and I failed the bar exam, not once, but twice. So I said, I need to maybe choose a different career. And I decided that, you know, a place to go and find new careers is the public library. Walk over to the public library. So I went to the Martin Luther King Library in downtown DC, and I walked into the Washingtoniana division, the kind of the local division. And I asked the reference librarian, I said, are there any computer clubs in town that I could join? And the person said, well, there's two. There's one for IBM users and one for like Apple users. So I said, well, I'm kind of Apple oriented. I don't wear a tie. You know, people who wear a tie used to be IBM users in the old days. So I said, tell me about an Apple user group. And the librarian went over and she found in an index card. This is an old fashioned library. And, you know, it was Washington apple pie. She handed me this index card. She goes, write down this information. So I wrote it down and I called up the office of Washington apple pie, which was on Woodmont Avenue in 1987. And I went and I joined that club. And that club actually gave me a new career because I ended up learning a lot about computers from people in the club. And not long after, I had my first job teaching computers in Montgomery County Public Schools. So Washington apple pie was my self-education route after I failed the bar exam. So I am grateful to the club because when I needed it, it was there. And I still have very happy memories. People might not know some of the earlier history of the apple pie. It's a very legendary club. When I joined, it had about almost 5,000 members or 5,500 members, I think, 1987, 88, 89. I ended up working at the Washington apple pie office. And at that time, we had members from 49 states. There were 49 different states who had members in Washington apple pie. And we had members in 32 different countries. We had members in Saudi Arabia, and they all liked getting our monthly journal. The monthly journal was in print, and it was about 140 pages, believe it or not. So those were the early days of the apple pie. And Bill Wider remembers these well, I bet. There was I guess, two offices on Woodmont. There was the Woodmont and Battery Lane, and then there was the other one in the very expensive building. But anyway, so now I've done with my digital storytelling. I want to save it. So I have 3 minutes here. I'm going to click on the recording icon and it's going to let me save it. So I could actually listen to it again and decide, I could decide to record it again, or I'm going to save it. So I come over here and I'm going to save it as a download right here. Boom. And it just saved this thing. It's called Vocaroo, July 22nd, MP3. And MP3 is the audio format that this website, Tunes to Tube, likes. So MP3 is a compressed audio format. It's not the uncompressed, which I really love, the highest quality audio, but it's going to work for our needs. So I come to Tunes to Tube, and I'm going to sign in. And I have a bunch of different, I have a work-related Gmail, and I have a personal Gmail. This is my YouTube channel. I click in here. You have to give permission to this website to use your Gmail account. So I trust the website because I've been using them for more than 10 years, and I've corresponded. The person behind it is very responsive. Even though it's a free website, you can send email to the person who created the website. They do have a premium version that you can choose, and I have chosen the premium version from time to time, where you pay. So I'm going to choose this, and it says over here, make sure you trust it. Yeah, I trust these folks. And let me scroll down a bit.
Thanks for the testimonial, Phil.
Yeah, I trust these folks, right? Now, my screen, I need to move things around a bit so I can see. Yeah, allow. There we go. So the first thing we do is we upload the audio and we upload the image. So your image can be up to 1920 by 1080 pixels. That's called full HD. So that this particular website will not let you do 4K images or 8K images, but I have been experimenting with that. If you look at my website, I like to make 8K videos, storytelling on YouTube. But let's upload some files here. And so I first want to get the Let me first get the Vocaroo. The audio I just did, Vocaroo. It should be finding it if I search Vocaroo, Vocaroo from today. Vocaroo from today. This is, yeah, I think there was two. There's one long one. Yeah, there's one 2.4 megabytes. That's the 3-minute one I just did. And then I had 1 or 2 tests. So these are not, the old tests are tiny, 76 kilobytes, right? So here we are. We open that up. And then we're going to upload the image, right? Upload the image, and the image, I called it LibreOffice, I think, LibreOffice. When I exported the image.
I think it's the template document.
That might be the template. Yes, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. So this is the little thing I made. I mean, I made this right before your eyes. I made that. And so there's 2 of them here. Now we just say create a video. This is really neat. Why don't I make it Creative Commons? Oh, and over here, let's give a description. So my origin story for joining Washington Apple Pie User Group. Description. This story was elicited from Jonathan. Got to give credit, right? Bernstein. Here we are. And tags, we'll put in Apple User Group and say create video. So now it's going to make that video. It's going to marry those 2 things together. And it says, yeah, there we are. Here it is. And here's the video. Boom. So we're processing the video. Now, this video is not going to take long to process because there's not much complexity. The graphics is as still, and the audio, I'm predicting the whole thing will be finished processing within 2 minutes or less. So I joined YouTube back in 2005 when it was young, and things used to take longer to process in the old days. But today, YouTube has a huge number of web servers that process the video. And so I'm going to try and reload this. So it might be done by now. Almost done, almost done. So I'm hoping that some of you will give a try at making your own storytelling. I do recommend trying to create a tribute video because that's very meaningful. You might make a tribute video to any person that you want to thank. It could be a family member, a friend, a coach. It could be a member of government. So I have a member of Congress that represents me in Congress, and he's not even from Maryland. I ought to do a tribute to him. So there's a member of Congress that represents me. He was a classroom teacher for 23 years. That's why he represents me. And he also has a Master's of Fine Arts. I bet you didn't know it. There's a member of Congress with a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. His name is Mark Takano. He is out in California. So he represents me in Congress. It should be done. Yeah. Oh, come on. Yeah, here it is. It's done. And so I can take this now. Here's the neat part. I can take this and send it as an email to anybody. I can send it to my brothers and my siblings, but I can also take this same video and share. I'm going to put this on the website for this presentation I'm making. So I'm over here. So you can see how, here's my website that I've made. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to say, and the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Here is the YouTube video created during this presentation. Here's the YouTube. So over here, I'm going to select all of that and I'm going to create a link. Boom. Here's my link. And then I come up here and I choose publish. Publish. Here we go. And publish. Okay. So if you come over here to this website, the website, which is for today's workshop, at the bottom of the website, you will see a link to the presentation I made today in the past 10 minutes. Here we go. Come on, Phil, you can move this. Things get a little cluttered. Maybe I need a second monitor. Huh. Anyway, you can see it. There'll be a link at the very bottom. I'm not quite sure how I move the zoom over to the right. You will see this. And let me also throw it into the chat. So I'm going to, this is the website again. If you go to that website, you might want to bookmark it. You might want to share it with some friends. And I also wanted to talk today a little bit about the software called Audacity. So Audacity is free sound recording and editing software. It's quite popular. It works on Mac, Windows, and Linux. And I like it because it takes my voice, which is not a radio voice, and it gives it greater bass and treble, and it makes my storytelling sound more interesting for people to listen to. So let me show you just a little Audacity. This is Audacity right here. And I like to think of Audacity, it's a word processor for sound. So in a word processor, we edit and we rearrange things and we transform things. So this is a tool for sound. And let's open up this Vocaroo that I did. Thank you, Aaron.
So Phil, this is a Mac app.
Yes, this is something that we download, Audacity. Yeah. And thank you, Aaron gave us the link to Audacity. There are some people who don't like Audacity. I like Audacity because it's free and it works on all platforms. There are people I encounter who are not bad people and they don't like Audacity. People who are audio professionals, voice actors and stuff, they use Adobe Audition and they kind of look down their nose. It's kind of like a Final Cut Pro versus iMovie attitude. You know, it's hard for somebody who loves Final Cut Pro to get excited about iMovie. I happen to like them both, you know, for different reasons. So let's load up this thing over here, the Vocaroo. I'm going to search my Mac. And I'll show you how you can, Vocaroo. I want to find the one that's I'm looking for the one that is 2 megabytes. I think it's this one. I think it's that one. Let's try it. Yeah, that's it. So what you end up with over here is you end up with this sound wave where you can listen to either part of something, you can select it. You can zoom in and zoom out. So there's a magnifying glass to zoom in and zoom out. And as you zoom in, you can see these little pauses, there's little silences here. You can select those and delete. So you can tighten up your audio to make it sound more interesting because it has fewer pauses in it. But we can also go looking for some ums and ahs. Maybe I can find an and ah. Maybe that's an right here. Let me listen. So, well, nope. But if I'm listening to this, I might select something that might be an or an ah. So I select it and I just press delete, and that or ah, it goes away. So that's
Sorry, where's the delete, Phil?
Oh, delete is on your keyboard. Just the delete key, like you would do in a word processor where you select words and you delete them.
Sure.
you can select something and just delete it, and it goes. It's no longer exists. And when I'm coaching people how to do digital storytelling, I coach children and I coach adults on this stuff. I like to make them as comfortable as possible with their storytelling to take away as much apprehension. I ask them to intentionally say and ah. So I said, I'd like you to give me a little test, a practice session, and let's put in an extra 5 or 10 ums and ahs and make them nice and long. And then after I showed them how easy it is to take them away, the intentional ones, that makes the person much more relaxed in their storytelling. So I myself stutter sometimes, and it's nice for me to know that I can take out something that I didn't intend to be part of my storytelling. By the way, there's a fabulous book about a true story of a stutterer. And the name of the book is called A Boy and a Jaguar. A Boy and a Jaguar. It's a true story about a stuttering person. And I have a book review on my book reviews website. I have a website for book reviews. So A Boy and a Jaguar. So I think that's going to cover most of what I wanted to talk about today. I hope some of you might have stopped by my website here. It's got a bunch of little tips. One very no-cost tip is before you do storytelling, drink some hot liquid like tea or, oh, Gabe, you got a question.
Well, actually, not a question. Why don't you finish this? I have a comment on Audacity.
Yes.
Not specifically on your presentation.
Oh, sure. Yeah, tell me your comment, Gabe. What's up?
As a lot of people here know, I'm an outlier. I use a Windows computer, but my house is full of other Apple accessories. That's why I belong to Apple Pie. But what I wanted to mention is that with Audacity on my Windows computer, which I like very much, with a very small little gizmo, I've connected my landline telephone to my computer. And that means that when I'm on the phone with my landline, with just a few clicks, I can record the phone call.
Oh, that is so interesting. So
that is extremely useful and occasionally entertaining. And I live in Virginia, and Virginia is a one-party notification state. And that means that if one person on the call, that would be me, knows that the call is being recorded, which I do because I'm recording it, it's legal. And I've done that. I have two stories which I won't bother telling, when I've recorded a call because I thought it would be useful, and I thought it would be useful for the other parties not to know that they were being recorded. And one of the calls in particular, recording one of the calls in particular, turned out to be extraordinarily entertaining because they were upset, they were making threats, and I pointed out to them that I had it on good authority, like a room full of FBI agents, that by coincidence, I happened to be able to ask whether that was okay. And they said, of course, Virginia is a one-party notification state. So anyway, Audacity is a wonderful tool for whatever reason you care to, recording phone calls that you're on. And I can't do it now, but I'll send to the Pi discussion list the little phone gizmo that connects a landline phone to a computer that lets you use Audacity on your phone calls.
Gabe, that's a great tip. I didn't know about that. I did not know about that. And so that can be used for journalism, right? You can
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Or even investigative journalism.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What a cool tip. I didn't know about that. Yeah. So I can tell you one thing that's very interesting about storytelling. After you get into storytelling, you have a changed view of yourself as a storyteller. And that's a very empowering feeling when you think of yourself as a storyteller, because stories will insinuate themselves into your mind that in your free time, when you're taking a shower before you fall asleep, all of a sudden you'll say, that's an interesting story. I should maybe do something with it. And working at the public library, I believe that the more stories we share, the stronger our communities become. And we all learn, every single story has a lesson of some, or, it's something to think about. And you get to know the person who's the storyteller. Some of you saw the tribute I did to my parents. My mom saw that, and she saw herself through my eyes, and she saw a different person than she saw when she looked in the mirror. So my mom didn't think of herself as amazing, but she was. And I was able to explain that in the video. So Phil, do I remember that in your early days? Yes, Bill's asking me, yes. Bill, some of my Apple II software that I created and sold is now on the Internet Archive, and you can play it in the web browser. So I'll send out an email to the Apple Pie list. There's some logic puzzles that I designed that were quite popular back in 1990, and I sold them. And there was a school district in Iowa City that evaluated the software. They had some teachers evaluate the software, and they rated the software 5 out of 5, which it meant a lot to me. It was one person. I was a one-person software company, and the software was made in my bedroom, and they thought that it was good software. So it's still good. It was good back then. It's good today. So, and Bill, you taught me stuff. You taught me stuff that I'm still using today. You taught me some logic puzzles called Sokoban, and I love those logic puzzles. So I play them. I've been playing them for more than 20 years since you taught me about them. So you might not have forgotten it. Rogue Amiga. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Good. Does anybody have any other kinds of questions? If anybody in Apple Pie creates their own digital storytelling, I could host it. Look what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to come over to this website for the presentation, and I'm going to make a new page. I come over here to pages. I'm going to make a new page here. Down here, I click on the thing page on the right. And so if anybody makes a presentation who attended today, you can send me a link. I'm stuck again because I can't see the bottom of my browser. I should be able to figure this out. There we are. Okay. So there's a little plus sign here. I'm making a new page, plus, and I'm going to say my students' digital storytelling. So you're all my students today. My students' digital storytelling. So if you create a video today of any kind, you can send me the link, and I'm going to list them here that people could come, and people who are watching this digital storytelling. By the way, I'm creating this today for the Washington Apple Pie, but I might be teaching this at other locations around town. I might take this to some public library systems here in the Washington, D.C. area. So this particular presentation and this website may well be seen outside of Washington Apple Pie. So.
Oh, Phil, did you see Sam Nutson's chat thing? He said,
No,
I used Audacity,
yeah,
but later moved to an inexpensive commercial package from Rogue Amoeba.
Oh,
Do you know that one? Fission?
I don't know Fission, but I do love Rogue Amoeba, right. They're a company out, I think they're in Rochester, New York. And so there's a commercial package. Yes. So Sam, I applaud you for, there's many tools that get the job done. And sometimes the software that you pay for is really worth it. I pay for this software called ScreenFlow. And so I use a lot of free software, but I pay for software that suits my needs, and and suits my budget. So I love ScreenFlow. It's commercial software that I use on my Mac. I've been using that. Believe it or not, that software was taught to me by a graduate student. I was teaching a graduate class at American University, and I was teaching screencasting. And one of my students said, "Have you heard of ScreenFlow?" I said, "I haven't." So student said, "It's great software." I said, "I'm installing it tonight." And it is good software. So ScreenFlow. If people are interested, I might do a ScreenFlow presentation, or just stop on by. I work at the public library in Tacoma Park. I'll show you some ScreenFlow. I work there from 12 to 8. So in case you're 9 to 5 person, and if you're in Maryland, if you can get over to the library before 8, or if you can make it from Virginia, I don't mind staying late too. I'm kind of lucky. My work is my hobby. How many people can say that? Not that many. So I love Rogue Amiga. And Van, thank you so much. Thank you, Van.
Jerry Berman has a question, Phil.
Sure.
Yeah, Phil,
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Before you leave, could you make a few comments about that lovely egret regret story?
Oh, sure.
Very, very sweet story. I truly loved it, and I meant to write to you. But when I saw you were presenting today, I thought this would be an opportunity for you to respond. It was very difficult to determine just how creative ChatGPT was, because we didn't know what you inputted. And
Let me tell you what I inputted.
So my question, I have a couple of questions. One is, were you surprised by what it came up with, or did it pretty much fit what you had envisioned it to do? And secondly, if you were to publish this, I know you donated it, you said, but if you were to publish this, would you have to name ChatGPT as a co-author or a reference, or are there use restrictions on using it where you can't even publish it?
Good questions, Gerald. I was astounded. I was astounded by it. So I asked ChatGPT just for fun. I said, write me a story about an egret that has no regrets. That was the entire prompt. So it wrote the entire story. That I just typed in that little prompt. So I was astounded at how well it did. It understood my intentions, you know. It understood. So I enjoy storytelling. I would have enjoyed writing that story because it's a kind of Dr. Seuss. It's a Dr. Seuss kind of whimsy, right? But yeah, ChatGPT is pretty remarkable as a storyteller. I've been exploring it, and I'm getting more and more an appreciation of how much it can boost your creativity. I feel that ChatGPT, it feels very similar to riding an electric assist bicycle, where you're on a bicycle and there's a motor that's pushing you forward and you're also pedaling, but it's a very welcome feeling to have a motor there. Just like that, there's a motor with your storytelling. And so, I'm happy to do a ChatGPT presentation sometime, either for Apple Pie or outside of Apple Pie. I'm finding it very, very interesting. I have a website called Phil Shapiro ChatGPT Explorations, where I'm just exploring stuff. But for me, if they decide to start charging for it, I'll pretty gladly pay a monthly fee to use that, because I find it amusingly useful. I mean, for me right now, it's just amusingly useful, and that's worth my money. If I find something amusing, it's worth my money. So,
Yeah, well, if you publish, would you have to refer to them?
No, I don't have to refer to them because they stole my writing in the first place. So ChatGPT and OpenAI, they went around the web stealing everybody's creative writing, right? And now they're making it available in their intelligence. So they didn't pay to go out. They didn't pay the creative sort people who who gave them the input. So definitely not. So I don't have to credit ChatGPT. I could just say I wrote it myself, and I did. I mean, I came up with the idea for the story, and sometimes with ChatGPT, I will take the text that's generated and I'll make some modifications. I'll either change something or I will add to it. And I'll tell you one thing that's interesting and also a little disappointing is that when I ask it to write a story, ChatGPT is heteronormative, meaning that if there's a couple in the story, if there's some kind of a love thing, they automatically assume that it's a man and a woman, and so that's not cool. They need to at least 10% of the population is LGBT, and so 10% of the storytelling that ChatGPT does ought to be reflective of what exists in the world. So I go in there and I fix ChatGPT, and so.
This is the limitation, Phil, that
Right.
these iterative things have,
Right.
that we somehow assume that if they take the internet as a whole, they only take the good things.
Right. Yeah, well, we have to be both. I'm both buoyant and cynical about OpenAI. And so Gabe, what's up? Question?
I just wanted to ask, from what I've read, I haven't done this myself, but I've heard that you can interact with ChatGPT and give it instructions for refining what it has written. And so I wonder if you could tell it, write an egret with no regrets story where the sexes are mixed.
Yeah, I did do that. So when I was disappointed, when I wrote this one thing, I wrote a story called The Cantaloupe That Cantaloupe. And so you can see how I spend my day at work. What's quite fascinating is that at my library job, I'm entitled to do whatever I want when I'm not helping the public. My supervisor says, Phil, you're entitled to do whatever you want when you're not helping the public. So I spend a lot of time reading about technology, but then I also spend time doing creative work. But now I can spend time doing creative work where I come up with a story idea while I'm helping somebody, and then ChatGPT is going to write the story. Here's one little neat tip. I use a website called blogger.com, and I can post my stories that I write with ChatGPT. I can post them via email. So I don't even have to log in. I have a particular email address, and I send the subject of the email is the title of the blog post. And so from the moment a story idea comes into my head until that story idea is on the web, it could be less than 5 minutes. And I find that exhilarating, you know? And I've encountered some limitations with ChatGPT, some things that I tried to do and I was surprised it couldn't do. But generally speaking, I've been astounded, I have to say. I have been astounded at, I'm a creative writer. I consider myself a satirist. So I did a little satire of The Old Man and the Sea. And ChatGPT knows about the story of The Old Man and the Sea. And so when I said, do a modern version of this, it totally understood what I intended. And it ended up being rather amusing. So, oh, thank you, Anne. Now, ChatGPT does have a lot of cliches. I got to tell you, after a while, you get a little tired of some of the cliches that it cranks out. But yeah, Anne, that's so neat.
Phil, have you tried any of the other generative AIs that are out and about? Have you
No,
tried Bard? I think somebody made a comment in the chat.
no, I haven't tried others because I'm kind of focusing on ChatGPT as the early, it was the early thing. So kind of like when Netscape was early, I focused my time on Netscape, even though there were other browsers out there. So I haven't tried the others. And I do have some smart friends. I have smart friends who are very cynical about Google. And I have some smart friends who are very cynical about Microsoft. And so I use some Microsoft services sometimes, and I use Google services sometimes, but I have friends who will not use anything Google whatsoever. And these are very smart friends of mine. I don't share their sentiment, but I really appreciate that they're helping me understand that they've chosen to distance themselves from large corporations. So, yeah, Google's early motto was "Do no evil," and then they decided to delete that motto. It's like, this motto is no longer working for us. We'll delete it. And so that wasn't really the right thing to do, is to change your motto on the fly. So
Now, Phil, did your video end up finally loading? Whatever happened with
yes.
that?
Oh, the video's up on my YouTube channel. Yes. And you can also see my video. My origin story is on the digital storytelling website I built. It's a link. Yeah.
Can you show us a little bit of that, of how how
it
that
looks.
website married the video and audio?
Yeah. Sure it is. It's here at the bottom. So let me close my chat window here. And if I come over here to say view this published site, down here at the bottom, there's a link. There's a link here at the bottom, and this is how it looks. I totally love the simplicity of this, because if you have the right kind of coaching, this is what a fourth grader, a digital native, could do. You could also do some very interesting storytelling like this with children, and keep the videos unlisted, so that the children have all the skills needed to do powerful storytelling. But the storytelling is not public. It's just shared with grandparents, uncles, and aunts. And that's called an unlisted YouTube video. And that's very beneficial to both protect children's privacy, because then they can talk about more sensitive topics than if something's going to be out in the public. So this is what it looks like. Here it is. So my story of coming to Washington apple pie is, here is 1987. So there it is. Yep. So this is the finished thing. Now, since
So what it does is just keep the graphics data as the audio progresses.
Right.
So when you do this, Phil, not for a demo,
right?
Is there a limit to the number of images that you can use?
Yeah, you can just use one image. I think it's just a one image kind of. It's a one trick kind of website. One image.
Oh, so not more than one image?
Right. If you want to use more than one image, that's when you go and you start using some video editing software.
Okay.
So this is what I love about this is the total simplicity of one image, one audio, and there's an advertising or whatever uploaded in HD at the very top. So if I paid them something like $20 per 6 months, or they have 3 different plans, I could remove that thing at the very top. But I don't mind it being there, because I want people to know about the service. The service is useful. I'm very surprised that YouTube has not bought that company, Tunes to Tube. I'm so surprised they haven't bought the company and rolled it into YouTube services, because it would expand the number of people who are storytellers. There's people who don't want to do video, but who want to be storytellers. So here's a graphics, and here's a narrated audio. So Google and YouTube, they could make this kind of capabilities very easily baked into YouTube, and they haven't done that. So I'm disappointed in them. And I wish there was some way I could communicate with YouTube, but YouTube doesn't really want to hear from me, even though I teach YouTube, right? They're poor listeners. These large companies are poor listeners.
Phil, have you tried to bring this to Renee Ritchie, who now works for YouTube?
No, I haven't, but I could, I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, this particular, our session today is being recorded, so it's good for her to know that I'm a fan of YouTube, but I have no way of communicating with them something that I think they ought to know. The big companies, they ought to have a chief listening officer, because listening is learning, right? Listening is learning, and listening is a path to wisdom. But they have a low hunger for wisdom. And I know something about wisdom. I work at a public library. So, that's what I do for a living, is like wisdom, So I get disappointed when a company has a low hunger for wisdom. It means that their focus is on profit, but they're not, they're using us, but they're not part of us. We're part of them, but we're not a part of them in any way that's significant for them to learn something from us. And that's sad. That is sad when a company is not able to learn,
So may I change the subject
Yes, go ahead.
briefly?
Yes.
So it sounds like Pi members would like you to return. And I wonder, at least a couple people have suggested that demonstrating ScreenFlow would be a useful thing.
Sure. I'd like to show ScreenFlow. I use ScreenFlow in two separate ways, both to do screencasting, where I record my video on the screen and in motion, but I also use it for storytelling kind of things where I'm not recording anything on the screen. I use ScreenFlow just as a basic video editor, kind of like an iMovie. I use it as maybe an advanced iMovie. I haven't used iMovie much since 2008. I used to be a big iMovie person, but I didn't transition to the new iMovie. I stopped at iMovie HD, which was 2006, I think. But then I kind of transitioned over to ScreenFlow.
Well, maybe if you might be available, what do we have coming up in August? The afternoon learners in August. I'm not sure if we're going to be in a hybrid meeting that month, but maybe that would be could you do it during the day, Phil, or are you
I can
working?
take off time from work, but it is somewhat of a more advanced topic. The thing I was excited about today is that the things I'm explaining, you don't really have to be a techie. You just have to have a hunger to share your story and then use these tools. So I can teach ScreenFlow, but I'm not, it's a more technical subject that might not appeal to a broader audience within Apple Pi. So, but I'll show up and maybe I'll show up and explain ScreenFlow, the very kind of basics, so that people can understand what the software is capable of. Rather than going into too much depth, I could do like the overview. So.
Also, could folks log into our Pi Attend link? I'll put another link in the chat for today's door prize.
You guys are giving away a door?
Yeah, we actually people like our doors.
Wow.
We actually give away a AirTag or an Apple gift card.
Apple gift card would be great. Let me tell you, I can't wait to get my hands on an M3 Mac. I've been using my M1 Mac that I got from Aaron Davis. I totally love it. And but the M3 Mac is going to be, it's coming end of this year or next year. And I think it's going to offer a lot of value for the dollar. So I also wanted to just, I should chime in for Diane's earlier question about her 2011 iMac. And it might be possible to switch your operating system on that iMac from Mac to Linux. And if you have Linux, which is the open source free operating system, you would have the latest browser. You would have Chrome 114 and Firefox 114. And that could potentially extend the use of that iMac. Now, Linux is different from the Mac, but it's similar enough that it's worth knowing that that computer may have more years in it than you expect. Not all of the old iMacs can run Linux. Some do and some don't. But I install it for free. So if you're able to get me your iMac, I live in Silver Spring, I work in Tacoma Park. If you're able to get it to me, I will try and install Linux on it. And then you would have, as Aaron said, it's rock solid hardware. So it potentially could be another 5 more years use from that 2011.
So maybe that old topic we should also bring back, Phil.
Yeah, well, I never tire of talking about Linux.
Do you still use Linux Mint?
I do. I use it quite a lot.
Oh, Phil.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to. Oops.
I like to put Linux Mint on a Windows Vista laptop. So the Vista laptop is a very fast laptop from 2007. It's a very fast laptop with a very slow operating system. So people think that the laptop is slow. It's a fantastic laptop. A Windows Vista laptop is fantastic. If you take off Windows and you put on Linux, Linux will go almost 3 times faster. It's immensely faster than Windows. And so if somebody's going to discard a Windows 7, a Windows Vista laptop, they might not realize that that laptop would be an ideal laptop for a refugee family, a Ukrainian family moving to the United States. They don't have anything here, or they might have one laptop for the parents, but they need one for the kids. A Windows Vista laptop with Linux could be a dream machine.
Phil, the Lenovo ThinkPad with Linux on it that you gave me is still working. I just updated it the other day.
Yeah. Linux is a little bit miraculous in how it's very humble in its use of hardware resources. And so you could use Linux even on a computer with like 1 gigabyte of memory, you know? So.
So while we're seeing if Pi members have any other questions, Pi mugs.
I hope I was able to show you today that by my sharing the story, my origin story, Jonathan has a new appreciation of how I came to Apple Pi. I came to Apple Pi because I didn't have a career. I'd failed the bar exam. Apple Pi gave me a career, you know? That's a pretty incredible thing that a computer club would give somebody a career, you know?
And does everyone listening to Phil tell that story reminds me of Walt Mossberg telling exactly the same thing, Phil.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
Yes, he actually kept coming back to the Pi. He loves us because he says he learned about tech at the Pi that led to his career.
It's pretty funny. Our paths did not our paths did not cross. I was just maybe 1 year after when he was very active.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up writing, if you look at old issues of the Washington Apple Pie Journal, I wrote more than 50 articles for the Washington Apple Pie between 1987 and 1992, 1995. I was writing for Apple Pie in 1998.
Do you know those journals are on the website now? So
Right,
we should
yes.
find one that has one of your pieces, Phil.
Yeah, some of the old pieces actually stand up today. I'm kind of proud. You know, they call it evergreen writing, when something you write 20 years ago still resonates today.
Oh, and sorry, the other point that Phil mentioned that I wanted just to add on to is that if, for example, we wanted to put any of these storytelling videos on the Pi YouTube page, we could, depending on the comfort of people, label them link only so that only Pi members could access them. So this would be a good way to share content in our club that people aren't comfortable making public.
That is interesting. Yep. And people will be more forthright that way. You know, so we're opening up some possibilities that otherwise wouldn't exist. That's always a good thing.
Not only that, but also in the how-to videos that we make, Phil,
Right.
sometimes it ends up being more effortful to cover over the personal information in the video,
right,
and easier to just expose it to the club and not the public.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, Phil, may I take down your screen share now?
Oh, sure. Yes. Absolutely. Please.
So here's what I wanted to share. To offer you, Phil, a handsome Pi mug in appreciation for you speaking to us today.
Oh, gladly accepted. Wow. I'll take that to work. And let me tell you, I drink tea all day long at work. So I'll be able to showcase this mug at my job. So.
Well, this will be a good excuse, Phil, for me to bike over to the Tacoma Library during your work hours to deliver it.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be nice to see you there. Right. By the way, our public library, we're very Linux oriented, but I've always hoped that we'd be a little bit more Mac oriented at some time too. Diversity is a value that exists in lots of different realms. So we should value diversity in race, religion, but we should also value operating system diversity. And I've been a little unhappy that at my place of work, we're only Linux. You know, I think there really is in a public setting, they ought to have some Mac, they ought to have some Windows for the public. It makes it a little more difficult to manage all of those. With I actually don't manage the computers at my job. We have an IT department, and they're very extended. So and they're Windows specialists. So they and the Linux computers are managed remotely from a company in Calgary, Alberta. So
holy cow.
Yeah, we pay a contract, even though it's Linux, we pay a contract for their services. We have like a 3-year contract.
So Phil, when you refurbish machines to give out to people,
right,
do you always give out Linux machines?
No,
is that what you custom?
No, I sometimes give out Macs. I love giving out Macs, and I sometimes give out Windows too. But I'm more inclined to be handing out Linux computers. But I delivered an iMac from somebody in Tacoma Park to somebody in Hyattsville, and she was thrilled. She's using it, I think, with her children or grandchildren, and it would be this person doesn't have the money to be buying a new iMac. So I was able to get her a 27-inch iMac from 2015, and she's really thrilled with it. So no, yeah, I refurbish. I do installs of Catalina or High Sierra. I kind of moving on from High Sierra, that's no longer supported, but I do some Catalina and some Big Sur and some, because whenever a person donates a computer, they really do, they want to hear that all their data has been erased. So I tell them, I'm going to erase your data and install a fresh operating system. So.
Actually, that reminds me of the most recent refurbished story. So we got a request from a student in Woodbridge, Virginia, who somehow had heard about us for a Mac for their schooling when they weren't in a place to be able to buy it. So I connected them with the Mac Recycle Clinic. And on Monday, actually, I'll find out if this student came up to Silver Spring this past Monday to pick up a refurbished Mac from the clinic.
Aaron, I would hire you in a minute to work at a public library. You're very good at answering questions.
Do you know, Van is the person, Phil,
Right.
who has made YouTube how-to videos that are on our YouTube page.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, please, I want everybody to subscribe to the Washington Apple Pie YouTube channel. It costs you no money. And if you don't have a YouTube account, you should create a YouTube account with your Gmail. And you don't have to be a YouTube producer. You don't have to make videos to have a YouTube account. You can have a YouTube account where you just subscribe to people and you're supporting people that you subscribe to, and leave comments, leave supportive comments. So I do think our Apple Pie channel needs to be stronger. I have 1,800 subscribers, and that's a pretty small number. So I'd like to see Apple Pie's numbers for the YouTube go higher.
Any way you can help us with that, Phil, would be welcome.
Yep.
Pie members, do you have any other questions for Phil?
Well, I just want to chime in with a comment that ties two things together. It ties storytelling and origin stories together. And before I forget, this was great. I had a good time with this, Phil, so thank you for this.
You're welcome,
But
Dave.
the
Yeah.
origin story deals with the only career advice that I ever got from my parents. My father was a reporter, and at one point when I was in high school, when I certainly had no sense of what my direction in career would be, he told me that if I could tell a story, if I could describe what I was doing, if I could explain why it mattered, that being able to tell a story would put me ahead of other people who might be just as good at the career, but couldn't talk about it, couldn't describe what they were doing and why it mattered. And so I took a very circuitous route. And after being a techie for several decades, I ended up being a freelance technology writer, where what I got to do was tell stories. And so, this is advice you can usefully pass on to younger people, that if they focus on being able to tell stories, it will help them in their work.
That's a fabulous tip. So, Gabe, you and I both know Stephen Vaughn Nichols, and he worked at NASA as a computer programmer. And then one day he figured out that his programming skills were very strong, but his explaining skills were even stronger. And so he said, I'm done with programmer. I'm just going to spend my time explaining stuff. And then he switched careers from being a programmer to being a technology journalist. And you and I both know how highly respected he is.
I think somewhere in my elevator speech, it says something like, I translate techno babble into clear English. And so that's exactly what he does. and what I've tried to do, and it's a useful skill no matter what area you're working in.
I'm looking at I'm looking over here at Aaron storytelling from Professor Galloway. Yeah, storytelling. We should all be doing it more. You know, we should all do it more in whatever way. You know, you can compose songs. You can use ChatGPT. There's 1,000 different ways to do storytelling. I hope today was one extra way that you might explore. It can be very, very interesting, you know, that your storytelling sparks somebody else's storytelling, that it becomes a creative contagion. And for me, it brings meaning to my life. So the more meaningful our life is, that's a good thing for mental health, you know. There's some people who are retired, they don't know what they're going to do with their time. They should be storytelling, you know. It should be kind of a known thing. Like if you got free time, you should be storytelling, you know. So
I don't want to, we can't get enough of this from you, Phil. I just wanted to announce and congratulate Jim Diamond for winning the door prize for today's meeting. So Jim, which would you like? A locator device or a gift card?
No, I've got AirTags, Jonathan, so I will take the gift card with thanks. And thanks to Phil for a great presentation and some interesting thoughts about storytelling.
Terrific.
I'm just curious, how many people before today's presentation, how many people went to see the video of the tribute I made to my parents? Was that, did we have a couple people, half of the people? People are on their way out. That's fine. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, that's such a heartening video, Phil.
Good. Yeah, I was very happy that my mom got to see it, you know, when she was alive. I think she was surprised. I think she was surprised to hear what I had to say about my parents. It was all true, you know, it was all true, but it made a difference that I was making this tribute public rather than private. I wasn't telling my mom in private, you're a great mom. I was telling my mom in public, you're a great mom, you know? And so that does make a very big difference, you know? Thank you, everybody, for showing up. I'm easily reached by email. My email's on that website. Oh, where's the tribute to my parents? Oh, it's the tribute to my parents. It's in the link for the announcement of today's presentation. And you can also find it on YouTube. Look up Mom and Dad Tribute #2. Mom and Dad Tribute 2. You can find, put in my last name, Shapiro. You'll find my tribute. It's 2.5 minutes. It was fun to write it. It was fun to make it. I made that 20 years ago. So. I can also share the link. I'll share the link right now here in the chat.
Yeah, please do, Phil.
Yeah, let me just go get it. I'm real proud of this thing. And you can share this video with your family members and say, we ought to do something similar in our family.
Sentences as he went along, all the while making it sound.
So. Here we go.
Terrific.
Here we are.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We should also thank Zoom. I mean, there's a company called Zoom, and I'm not spending any money with them today, and they're helping me do something good. So we should fill our hearts with gratitude. Fill your heart with gratitude. It's a good thing to do.
That might be the best last word we could possibly have today.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thanks everybody for coming today. This was so interesting, and let's all see what we can do with it.
Very much so.
Any last comments or questions? Has Ann Zabaldo come back? No, I don't see her. She
I think
said
maybe
she was going to join from her car.
He's probably in transition. I mean, Jonathan, you were using a transcription service on Zoom that was one of their apps. I was experimenting with one of their apps that's available for a while, free for paid, those with a paid Zoom account. And that's where my so-called name tag is on my screen today. That's how that was created. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's a Zoom app called Warmly, WARMLY. And I have a paid Zoom account, so they sent me a notice that I could experiment with it.
What does that do, Dan?
Well, can you see on my screen the information where I have my name and information about me and so forth? I don't know whether that shows up.
Yeah, let me do it in speaker mode. Oh, I see. Retired U.S. Treasury / the pie.
And you can, you can do various kind of things with it, and just to, it's just trying to help people introduce themselves and so forth. For example, you can even very quickly, I can bring it up. I can bring the app up and very quickly.
Why don't you share? You want to share and show us?
Well, let me see. Let me just show you one thing first. If I go to name tag, personal. Okay, I can click on a little switch here in the area, and I can set a new name tag for myself and just display. I'd already typed it, and so it added a bottom line there: Mac enthusiast, fan of most things Apple, occasional beta tester. So you can put whatever you want in there, but it's you get to build a name tag for yourself, and you can decide what gets displayed and what doesn't, and choose different backgrounds if you want, and that sort of thing. It's one of the apps that is available in Zoom. You have to sign up through Google or sign up through Microsoft, but if you have a paid account, I think you get to use this and play around with it for a year for free. So I just installed it a day or so ago and thought I would let you guys see what it looked like. But you can type anything you want in there below your name, including interesting things like you can give people, you can display pronunciation guides on how to pronounce your name. Interesting stuff like that. But
boy, that would be a helpful thing for sure. What is it? I turned on apps and I see it, and it says AI name tags by Warmly. AI?
That's just look, I don't know, if you have a company these days, you got to have AI in the name, don't you? I have no idea what AI has to do with it. It's really nothing, but you just you have to log in and you have to sort of set it up. It doesn't take very long once you figure it out, but it's just something different, and you can have different things you can display on the screen and all of that kind of thing. It's just a way to provide a little bit more information about meeting participants and so forth. And you could, if they fill in the bottom line there, like about, you know, like I did, you could sort of get a little bit of information about people and learn a little bit about them, even though they're not talking, even though you're just seeing them on the screen. So anyway, it's nothing that exciting, but I just thought I would point it out since it came along with the price of admission.
Well, it's a classic thing that we haven't done much with the Zoom apps yet. So it's nice to have people experiment with them.
Yeah, it looks good. Very nice.
So if I turn off my bio info and I turn on the pronunciation, it'll set my name tag and it'll change it. It's covered up on my screen with my Zoom name, but it actually, there's a pronunciation guide right there. I don't know if you can see that where it shows you how to pronounce my last name. But anyway, it's fun, just something to play with. As Fergie would say, that's all.
So there's another app called Meeting Recaps. Has anybody used that one? That seems to have some of the same features as Fathom, but maybe I'll try that one next. Just to remind everyone, Fathom, the one that I use, generates a transcript of the meeting, but also can do a quote AI summary of the meeting. And it was when I pasted that summary into one of the meeting recaps and asked people if they thought it's something that we should use, Lawrence pointed out that in an exchange about something where he had said something wasn't right or wouldn't work, the summary had changed it to, yeah, would work. So he voted not yet ready for prime time. If I had to guess, I would guess that this other meeting recaps thing also has that. So for the next meeting, I'll disable Fathom and try this one and see if the outcome is any better.
Well, part of the problem, there's only so much that that software can do when you speak as inelegantly as I do, and tend to not be precise in my language. So, like a lot of things, operator error, I think, is behind it.
Well, I think it's good, not bad, that Zoom is not standing still and trying to introduce new things. But as always in the pie, we like to try things, even if only to conclude, nah. Well, my wife is pinging me about lunchtime. Roy, thanks so much for so quickly sending Jim Diamond the Apple gift card for the door prize for the meeting. And thanks again, everybody, for coming today. You can save the chat if you're not on a mobile device, but we will send the chat around along with the recap from this meeting.
Great meeting. See you all.
Bye, everyone. And enjoy the day. It's one of the few really nice days in a host of hot ones. I don't know, Van. I long since turned this on, but it doesn't seem to work.
Really? Mine is absolutely rock solid. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And one thing that's nice is Zoom now has a pop-up in the Zoom screen when someone raises their hand. In other words, not an add-on to the participant list where you can see that, or their people's pain where you can see it. But that's a useful pop-up, I think.
I think you're right. Yep. Jonathan, I was going to ask you, I know you got to go. I was just going to ask you a quick question.
Yes.
And we could talk about this later. When you put the announcement out regarding Phil's presentation today, I just grabbed it off of the Groups IO site. And I'm just, playing and putting it in the new, the new Pi website that we're playing with and still working on. And one of the things I maybe want to talk to you about at some point is, not that I would be producing them, but is there a way? It's hard to read. In other words, it would be ideal if that placard could be all we had to have there, but it's difficult to read.
You mean the text in the image?
Yes. Yeah. It's behind you, what you have on Phil there. So, I mean, putting the image into the site is straightforward, but it's difficult to read. I don't know whether there's a way to refine that or a higher quality, or whether we just, it just is what it is. I don't know whether there's options there that would.
It could be your feedback is use less text.
No, no, actually, I like what you're saying. It's just, I don't know whether you can, it's hard to expand. It's just a little hard to read it. And that's partly because it's an image, I think, and you're trying to expand
it depends what the quality of the image is.
Yeah.
If the quality is good enough, then you can blow it up and read it. In fact, if you open it in preview, you can also take the text out of the image and look at it separately.
Yeah, I didn't know whether or not, I didn't know what you were using or whether you were making a quality choice there to keep the image small or what.
I think
just, for example,
I think that's something that groups.io does.
Okay. All right. Well, then another thing we could experiment with is if you have, and again, this might happen on Weebly as well, but if you had a higher quality version of that, you could put it on the shared iCloud Drive area that we have, and I could try to import that and see if it was any different.
I'll do that actually later this afternoon. Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is not important or any kind of urgency or anything.
No,
I just noticed.
Thanks for pointing it out. Appreciate it.
Okay. Have a good day, everybody.